Hi guys, this is Michael from SAE. I'll be going over tutorial today. In particular, we'll be going over Maya 2015's modeling toolkit, and basically what we'll be doing is importing a couple of reference images. For example, it could be a sketch that you've created and scanned, and bringing that into Maya, and then creating a polygon object out of that. Okay, so let's get stuck into it. Maya 2015 basically has the modeling toolkit, which can be accessed on the top right hand side here, this button here that introduces you to the modeling toolkit. Now before I go any further within the toolkit itself, I will bring in an image that I have simply downloaded. So here we go. Here's my front viewport, side viewport, and perspective, and the top viewport. So first off, I'll go to my front view. I'm in the front, and just up here on the left hand side of the window, this view, I'll click on view, then image plane. Okay, import image. Now I'll just search on my computer for an image, and in this particular lesson I'm going to use an axe. Okay, and what we're going to focus on here is the actual axe blade. Okay, so what we're going to do is create a polygon object out of the blade shape, and we'll extrude it out. So here we are. I've got the image, and all I did was view image plane, import image to bring that in. And if I actually go into the reference, sorry, not reference editor, into the main view, perspective view, there it is there as well. Okay. If I open up the outliner, you can actually see the image plane there as well. There it is. And first off, what I'd like to do is just move it slightly back. I do that because when I begin to create the polygons, often you can't see them properly because they'll be hidden behind the plane. Often they'll be created on the other side. So I've just pulled it back, just pulled the plane back slightly off of the x-axis. Okay, now I'm going to move back into my front view, like so. If I double click on that image, it brings up the attribute editor. It shows me everything about it. Now, the alpha gain is quite important here too. If I pull the slider down, notice how you can hide it and bring it up on the alpha gain of the image. Once again, it's just the image plane. I've brought it up and down. Okay. So what you can actually do here, here's a little tip. Maya has a timeline. This is the timeline down the bottom. I'm just left click and dragging to move the timeline. You can also put, here's your the buttons, the controls. You can push play and it actually plays through just like a media player. Push stop, rewind, etc. So if I just left click and drag it to number 1, what I can do in the alpha gain, if I right click on the actual word alpha gain, down here you got set key. Boom, it creates a little red mark at frame number 1. It's created a key. Now if I move along to number 5 and drag the alpha gain, my left mouse button, click and drag all the way down to 0, right click on the alpha gain again and set another key. So what's that has effectively created when I left drag is now I can control the alpha gain inside the timeline. Now this is very effective when you're modeling, so as I do not have to constantly go back to the attribute of the image plane. I can simply come down to the timeline and voila, just drag that up and down. So I'll leave it up for now so as I can see it. Here we go. I'll come back into I'm in my front viewport. Great. Front view. And now, okay, so let's learn a bit more about the modeling toolkit. Here we go, the modeling toolkit. So what is it and how can we use it? Well, basically what it allows us to do is to create polygon objects. Okay, in this respect, what I'm going to show you first is, well, let's start from the beginning. Up here you have vertices, edges, and faces. Vertices are once again just little points, edges are lines, and faces are entire, well, exactly what it states. It's like a quad face. Okay, and now a good example of this is if we drag down and come to our quad draw. Now I'm going to turn quad draw on. This is a very powerful tool, and just to show you how it works, if I just click anywhere, boop, it creates these little points, vertices actually. That's what vertices are, just single points in the world space. And then I'll create a couple more actually. There we go. Now the beauty of this is if you hold down the Shift key and then move over where those points are, it shows you where you can create a quad. Okay, and there we go. So I'm still holding the Shift key here, still holding Shift. Now if I click with my left mouse button, it creates a quad polygon. Okay, click again, perhaps up here, there we go. If I move back into my perspective, you can see exactly what I've created there. Now this is why I needed to move that image plane back slightly so as we could view our creations. Okay, so now you can also remove any extra vertices or points with the button down here. It says clear dots, because they're just little dots, clear dots, and they're all gone. Okay, let's move back into our front view, and now we're going to create this axe blade. So to do that, I'm going to zoom in a bit so as we can all see it. So I'll start down the bottom here, on this bottom edge. Whoops, I'll clear the dots, and now we start. I'll start from this point, create one here, perhaps one here. Remember we need 4 points. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I hold Shift, move across, and left click. There we go. There's our first polygon. So then I just create another group, just left clicking. I'm not holding any keys down, just left mouse click. 1, 2, 3, 4, that'll be. So I just need one more here. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then now I hold Shift, left click, left click. I'll move up a bit. This time I'll try and split it off towards, I'll try and create three branches. So I'll create, say, one here, a dot here, a dot here. And that, when I hold Shift, I'll create a polygon, like that. Which means I only have to place 1 point here and 1 point here. And I hold Shift again, and tap, and tap. Left mouse clicking. Okay. So now I'll just keep progressing all the way up until I've created the actual blade. So I'll create another one here, maybe here, here. Okay. I'll go again, like so. One there, one here. So you can see how simple it is to create, and how powerful this tool is. 1, 2. Now if I create one right in the corner here, perhaps there. There we go. And one more there. And now right up the top. And here, and perhaps here. And there we go. We've got ourselves the blade. Now another great aspect of this quad tool, we're still on the quad draw tool, is not just holding Shift, but you can actually hold Control and then you can add extra edges. So I'm going to zoom in a bit closer so you can all see that. If I hold Control, left click, creates an edge. Do it up along this slot. It's adding more detail. So I'm holding Control and left click. There we go. I'll try one down this edge here too. Control, I'm holding the Control button and left click. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off Quad Draw. I'm going to move up to Vertice mode. Hit W, and now if I wanted to, I could move the vertices around to get better shape, a bit more flow happening. I'll move this one down a bit, perhaps this one down. You can use the up and down arrows in Maya, up, down, left and right key, the arrow keys, to quickly navigate around the vertices that I want to move. Okay, and maybe even drive this one down, perhaps this one over a bit. Now at this stage I'll also like to introduce another tool within the modeling toolkit, and if you notice down here we have transform constraints. Okay, you've also got selection constraints. But first off, I'll just go for transform constraints because that's it's a great tool. Let's say, for example, I click on edge slide. Now, whenever I click a vertice, it gets stuck to the actual edge. It'll only travel along the edge, which is great if you want to restrict its direction or its flow. Okay, so that's the edge, transform edge. Now I'm going to move down to surface slide. Surface slide only lets you move around the actual surface. It won't leave the surface area. Okay, which is great if you're creating, for example, organic shapes, converts or convex sort of shapes, and then you can move around the surface without the vertice actually jutting or coming off the surface, raising off the surface. So there you go, that's the transform constraints. Now next up we're going to introduce Multicut tool. I'll move back into, say, face mode. Multicut tool allows us to exactly do cuts across the surface. So if I wanted to, I could go cut here, for example, and maybe here, and then hit enter. So that's another way of adding edges with the Multicut tool. The Multicut tool, I believe if you hold Control, you can also add edges just like with the quad draw. It's the same. Okay, so for example with the Multicut I could create something like there to there, there to there. Okay, but the issue that this brings up is now you no longer have quads. You no longer have a polygon, like a four-sided polygon, because you got these extra edges, which is not very desirable. So I'm going to undo that. You got to always keep in mind that you want to have four-sided polygons. Five-sided polygons are n-gons, okay, and you do not want tris either, three-sided. So there we go. That's quite good. So I'm going to turn off Multicut, and I'm going to go into our perspective view. There we go. And I'll highlight our piece, the blade, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to extrude it. So basically I'm going to turn off the faces and take the whole lot and turn on extrude. And here we go. First I need to select them all, sorry. Where's our marquee? Marquee select I want. Pick marquee, there we go. Pick marquee, that's better. I'll just go faces again. all of those. Now we'll use the extrude tool. Click extrude. Whoop, that's a long way, so I'm going to left mouse drag to bring it back. That's a bit better. And let's now, so we've got some thickness there now. What we're going to do is actually create an edge loop running around the top here, so as we can pull out the actual blade, the edge of the blade. So there. So we're going to turn off extrude, and I'll turn on multicut. Say I'm going to hold Control just like that, approximately there. There we go. Turn off multicut. This time I'm going to select edge mode. Grab that edge. Grab this edge. This edge. Just working my way down. Grab the edges. Another edge here, here, and say here. And one more. And I'll simply hit W, which is our move tool, and drag those out a bit to form a real knife edge. Okay, I might even pull this one up slightly as well. Beautiful. And this one, I might pull that one back a bit, maybe even down a bit. Now I'll go into vertice mode here. I'm just finessing things here a little bit. That one back in. Perhaps this one if I wanted to. Pull that down a little bit. And that's it. Okay. Vertice. So there we go. There's our blade. If I were to hit the number 3 key on the keyboard, you'll see a smooth version of it. Go back to number 1 key on the keyboard, and we're back to a faceted mode. Okay, now let's grab our faces again. We'll grab, say, faces along here, and we're going to pull out the, the handle. Let's create the handle now. We want to make sure that, because we're going to do another extrude, we want to have the faces extrude. Keep faces together. See this here, and we'll extrude out. There we go. Extrude out. Make sure I'm in the front view as well. Doesn't know how far, and I want to take it to the blue line there because we're going to mirror this over. Approximately there. That's great. Turn off extrude and select the X piece. And will I mirror over? No, I won't. Not yet. I need to extrude it down a little bit too, don't I? So let's go to underneath. This time we'll grab these faces, 3 and 4. We'll extrude those. So actually I'll do an extrude from, remember, edit mesh, extrude. You still have this option as well. Do an extrude down. I'm going to pull it in a bit. Then hit G to repeat the last tool. And pull down again. And maybe even come in a little bit more. G again. And now I pull right down. So there you go, get the idea. Front view, hit F to focus on all. Focus all. Right click and select the entire object. Now's a good time to actually modify, center the pivot. Now if you hit W, the pivot's centered here. If I wanted to, I could hold D and V. You can pop it right to one of the edges there. I'm holding D and V. Now let that go. There's my center pivot there now. The object's center pivot. If I wanted to rotate it, it'll be rotating on this axis. Notice that? Z to undo. And now what we want to do is mirror it. Mirror it across the x-axis. x-axis is the red axis in the positive direction. So we hit Mesh, Mirror Geometry, and go to Options, make sure we're in the positive X, and Mirror. There we go. Now, what I want to show you here, notice we have the gap. There's a gap there. Why is that? Why is there a gap? Well, if you notice here, when we extrude it in, we've actually come off the x-axis into the minus slightly. So if I'm just going to undo that mirror. So what we're going to do instead is, if you come up to here, you notice you've got your input line menu operations. The little arrow pointing down, we want to change that to relative or absolute. We want it to absolute. Now we get the X, Y, Z. Now this might be hidden. For example, just beside these little film snap things. Basically you click that and then it should show. So if I grab, for example, a group of vertices there, notice I've just grabbed group here. Now in the X we want it to go to 0. They should all go to the 0 line. There we go. Now I know they're all perfectly in line with the 0 axis, with the Y axis, sorry. And I'm going to do the same to this bottom one, and I'll type 0 in the X axis, and there we go. So now let's have a look at I know that all these vertices are aligned to the X axis at 0. If I right click, I want to delete some of these faces because we want the X to be hollow in the middle. So I'm just going to delete a few of them. Delete, 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 delete. Get up a bit closer so you can all see. Delete that one, delete that one, and that should do it. Now we can do our mirror. So Mesh, Mirror Geometry, and that's better. Okay. Now notice some of these vertices have aligned down the bottom here. They've suddenly, see how they've all merged rather than stay together? We can fix that, which is a great opportunity to show you the Multicut tool in action. Turn on Multicut, click, and click here, and enter, and we'll use it one more time, and there. Okay, so now we'll turn off Multicut. We'll go into our edges mode. Sorry, we should go into edges mode here. Edges, select an edge. What we want to do is actually delete an edge. Now rather than just simply hitting delete, I actually like to keep it nice and clean by using the, where is it? Delete edge vertex. This tool is important. That way you don't have any residual vertices or faces. So click that and it's gone. Click another one. I hit G to repeat the last tool. G and G. Now it's nice and clean. Okay. It's a little tip there. So let's move along. Now the next tool I'd like to introduce is the bridge tool down here. The bridge tool is used, for example, with faces. We'll go into face mode on our modeling toolkit, and let's say across here we grab this face and say this face, 1 and 2, and then we click on our bridge, and it creates an actual bridge, but it's very difficult to see what it's doing. It's just created a big mess in there. Okay, it hasn't lifted anything. So what we need to do is hold Control, Shift, and right click, move. Now I'm still holding Control, Shift, and I'm holding the right mouse button down. Go down to Curve Types, and then Blend. Now when I let that go, voila, it's created our bridge. Now we've also got Twist turned on, so I'll reduce the twist, bring out the twist, And there we have it. You can also change taper. Okay, now if I hit our 3 key, you'll see it in smooth mode. Brilliant. There's a little handle for our axe. Okay, so that's an introduction. Now we'll go a little bit further and I'll show you a couple more tools. Of course you can extrude these and pull them out and adjust them, etc. I'm going to turn off bridge, and what we're going to do, go back to number 1 key, our faceted mode. And at this stage what I'm also going to do is remove the background image. So I'll go into my outliner, click on our image, and just hit delete. There we go. So click on my axe. Now we have a tool here called drag. It's just another way of selecting things, selecting pieces. If I go onto our face, and you can just actually drag across, and that selects pieces just like that. See that? And then if I wanted to, I could now use my connect button, and it puts a group of edges right between them. And that's going to be useful for example, if I hit my move tool, W, I can say pull those back a little bit or out a bit. Okay, so that was the connect tool. Another useful tool is the bevel tool. So I'm going to go into, say, edge mode. I'll click on a edge, example there. Whoops, too many. Because I'm still in drag, I'll go back to pick marquee. I'll just click on one of those, move out a bit so we can see what we're doing. Just one for the time being. And bevel does exactly as it states, it creates a bevel. Just there. Now I can thicker, less of a bevel, and of course the controls for it are here. Segments are 1, I'll up that to say 3, enter, and if I zoom in close, you can actually see the extent of that bevel. There we go. And make it thinner. I'll move around this side. I'll hit enter, and another one, hit bevel again, adjust it. Because in the real world, no object is a totally 100% sharp edge, is it? There's always a slight curvature on an edge. It's always got a slight bevel. So that's the bevel tool. Okay guys, now if I hit number 3, here we go. That's the start of a good looking axe. Okay, so yeah, that's the an intro to the modeling toolkit in Maya 2015. There's a few other tools that I could introduce, but for the time being, just play around with that, and we'll have a go at creating something. Try, for example, you could create a maybe a dolphin shape. If you can find like a side view, a silhouette of a dolphin, and extrude that, or for example, as a good activity, you could try extruding kitchen utensils, or maybe mechanic tools, garage tools. So pick, say, 1 or 2 tools and have a go at extruding and creating a tool of your own. And then it'd be great if you could actually upload your finished designs or a work in progress piece to the forum. It'd be great to see, and let me know how you all go. Okay, have a great afternoon, evening, morning. Yeah, I'll see you on the forum. Bye bye.